Waluigi Pinball, one of the most popular Mario Kart tracks of all time, and for some pretty good reasons too. I mean, the aesthetics of this course are some of the best in all of Mario Kart history. With its bright neon lights, banger song, and incredible concept of driving through a giant pinball machine, there's no wonder that this course is beloved by Mario Kart fans the world over. But like I just mentioned a few moments ago, this course is one of the best in Mario Kart history aesthetically. And that doesn't necessarily carry over to the gameplay side of things. And though the aesthetics are once again absolutely stunning on this track, they do tend to overshadow the fact that the gameplay is honestly not that engaging. And with the course recently returning in Wave 2 of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass, with almost no changes from its original route, I've decided to go over my problems with the track and how they could potentially be fixed in a future iteration of it. So with all that out of the way, let's roll the intro and get into the problem with Waluigi Pinball. Those of you who have been watching the channel for a while might know that I don't really like Waluigi Pinball that much, specifically because of its lack of shortcuts. I mean, like I said back in my Wave 2 review of the Booster Course Pass, there's not even a hint of off-road. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is where some shortcuts could be added. Now, Waluigi Pinball, given that it takes place in a giant pinball machine, doesn't really lend itself too well to many off-road sections, at least not in the traditional way. There isn't really any dirt or grass in a giant pinball machine. However, I found 3 spots on the track that I think could work well having off-road shortcuts in them. But since Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which has the newest version of Waluigi Pinball in it, doesn't have a free cam mod as of yet, all the footage I'm going to be showing you of the shortcuts and where I think they should be will be taken from the track editing tool Track Studio, which is used to edit tracks in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, as well as make custom tracks for the game. So that's why you might see a few random debug cubes or just things that you wouldn't see normally in-game in the background. So with all that said, let's now get into the first shortcut. Now this would be a pretty simple corner cut. However, it would save quite a bit of time as the turn it skips is pretty large. Because of this, I think it would be best if it took a pretty precise turn as well as a mushroom to both get through the off-road and to actually be able to get into the cut itself. It would start here towards the end of where the ground is curved upwards from the turn, meaning that you're going to have to start your drift pretty early if you want to make it into the cut from the jump that goes before this turn. It would then go across the turn and slightly to the right, allowing you to cleanly drift in and out of the cut, assuming you have a mushroom. This cut would be pretty darn difficult to pull off, and therefore pretty risky. However, I do think it justifies it with its reward, given that it's a pretty big turn that it's cutting off. And, like you might have heard on my channel before, I love it when Mario Kart tracks and shortcuts implement elements of risk versus reward. The second cut would be slightly after the first one, however, it would cut off a lot less of the track. And I think it would go from a off-road section into a ramp that allows you to get back on the track, given that the course does elevate upwards towards the end of this turn. This cut wouldn't be as difficult to get into, once again assuming you have a mushroom. However, it would be pretty difficult to finish, given that the ramp could send you flying off the course if you're not careful and you're on a higher CC, such as 150 or 200. The cut would start around this conveniently placed line that's already in the course. It would then go diagonally across the turn towards the line on the other side of it. Like I just mentioned, the cut wouldn't actually go all the way through to the other side of the course, and instead you would go onto a ramp that took you back onto the track, which would be a little bit before where the wall is currently on this version of the course. But then the final of these 3 off-road cuts would be much farther into the course towards the very end. And this is actually very similar to a cut already in the game in Twisted Mansion. This cut has you going through what looks almost like a hallway to cut the corner of a turn. And while Waluigi Pinball's cut would be at the end of the track and this is at the beginning of Twisted Mansion, I think the setup for both of these cuts would be near identical, and they would skip almost the same amount of the course. But where exactly would this cut be? Well, as you enter the final stretch of the course that takes you back up to the pinball launcher, the final turn that leads you into the finish line could have a little hallway similar to that of Twisted Mansion that allows you to take an off-road cut. Out of all 3 of these off-road shortcuts, I think this one is A, the most likely to get in a future iteration of this course, but B, just overall the best of these 3 shortcuts. In its current state, the ending portion of this course doesn't really have a whole lot to it as well. I mean, sure, there are a few turns, but then boom, you're done with the lap. Adding a shortcut here not only would spice up the gameplay towards the end of the course a little bit, But ending shortcuts are also some of the most fun in the Mario Kart franchise, in my opinion. They let you get a last-second comeback, just barely getting first place or a place better than where you were previously. They also encourage you to use your items more strategically, as you might want to save a mushroom for the cut at the end of the course, or make sure that you have some sort of red shell or any other offensive item to make sure that if someone does cut in front of you, you're able to stop them before they reach the finish line. But that's all the off-road shortcuts I think could work in Waluigi Pinball, so now let's talk about some alternate routes. Currently, Waluigi Pinball is an extremely linear course, only having a slightly open section towards the end with the bumpers and all the pinballs bouncing around. While you definitely do want at least some kind of linear nature to a racetrack, so then the player knows where to go, alternate routes function in a way that's similar to shortcuts in how they spice up the gameplay. Plus, they can make the racetrack a little less clustered, and allow you to either avoid getting hit by items or get an item yourself, while sometimes being at the sacrifice of a faster route. But before we talk about some alternate routes that I've thought of, let's first talk about one that Nintendo actually had themselves in a beta version of Waluigi Pinball. Yes, this course that you're looking at right here is what became Waluigi Pinball. It definitely does not look a whole lot like the final product, but the base layout is still there. As you can see, this alternate route actually takes you below the course, having a few turns before spitting you out into the same place that you would have exited the normal pinball section. And all the footage that you're seeing of this early version of the course, I got from the website NoClip, which allows you to fully explore with a free cam tons of older video game levels. So I highly recommend you go check out that website if you want to get out of bounds and see some cool stuff in some of your favorite video games. And this video is not sponsored, by the way, I just thought I'd mention it since that's where I got this footage. And as you can probably tell, it's not that hard to see why this alternate route was cut from the final version. I mean, it is so much longer than the normal route. As you can see from this bottom view of the course, it just takes so much longer to go all the way around rather than straight down the pinball section. However, that doesn't necessarily leave a route that goes underneath the course completely out of the question. If there was a route that was faster than the normal route that went under the course, however it might not have item boxes and coins like the top route would, then it could work pretty well. You'd be sacrificing the extra speed you get from coins as well as the defensive and offensive advantage you could get from an item box. However, you will probably get to the finish line faster, assuming you don't get hit by an item. Again, implementing that factor of risk versus reward. But then looking at the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe version of the course, I found two more alternate routes that I think could work pretty well. And the first one is something I think we've all probably wanted to do when driving this track. It's driving on the metal frame that holds the pinballs as they go throughout the majority of the course before they drop down onto the track that you're driving on. Imagine if at the start of the track, the windows that allow you to see the pinballs going along this metal frame went from floor to ceiling, and one of them, towards the end of lap 2, folded over onto the other ones, allowing you to go off of a ramp onto the track that the pinballs are going across. That would be so cool. Now, the route that these pinballs take on this metal frame would definitely have to be changed if this was made into an alternate route. Otherwise, it would be super unbalanced, no matter how many items or coins you put on one of the routes. Now, I would imagine this route would have a few coins along it, and maybe an item box or double item box towards the end where it drops you off onto the normal course. However, I do picture this being faster than the normal route, so I don't think there would be many items or coins at all. Just enough to keep the gameplay interesting. The gaps in this metal frame would also have to be replaced with glass as well. That way it still keeps its original look while allowing you to actually drive on it without falling off. This has been something that people have wanted to do ever since the course originated back in Mario Kart DS, and I really hope this alternate route becomes a reality in the next iteration of Waluigi Pinball. But for the final alternate route of this video, you might have noticed that there are a few things that aren't normally there in Waluigi Pinball in some of the clips I've shown of these shortcuts and alternate routes, and that's because since I'm getting this footage from Track Studio, I was able to add in a few different things to better illustrate this final alternate route. This route would have you going alongside the final pinball section rather than having you go straight through it. Obviously, in the course's current state, this would be super unbalanced, so obviously the actual model and layout of the course would have to be slightly changed to make this actually viable, but I think it does have a huge amount of potential. So as you can see in this footage, this route really wouldn't work in the course's current state unless you go off of a ramp after an extremely tight turn. This is one of the main spots where I feel like the curvature of the main road would have to be changed a little bit to make this route viable. I feel like it might be best if when you exit into the main pinball area, there's a split path that allows you to go onto either side of the main pinball area and drive along it. There would be a bumper and a double item box on both sides like I have positioned here in the footage, and there would probably be quite a few coins as well. Since these are taking a less direct route to the end of the lap, these would obviously take more time, and therefore that's why they have much fewer obstacles. The pinballs can't go here, and you get rewarded with a double item box and a bunch of coins. I think because this route would be somewhat significantly slower, it could still work well with the double item boxes and coins that are already on the track in the main pinball section still being present, as to get to those, you have to brave multiple different obstacles with the bumpers, pinballs, as well as the flippers at the end if you want to get the coins. I feel like even if just a few of these things were added to Waluigi Pinball in its next iteration, the course would be so much better gameplay-wise, and its gameplay would finally be able to rise to meet its graphics. But what do you all think? Do you think the only problem with Waluigi Pinball is that there aren't actually any Waluigi-shaped pinballs on the course? Let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, you might as well hit the like button as well. I mean, if you got this far in the video, you probably did like it. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, make sure to subscribe. I'm aware this video might be a little bit controversial given how popular Waluigi Pinball is, so thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. This video was meant to come out a little bit earlier than it had, however, I ended up getting COVID over the holidays, so I wasn't able to work on this for a while given that my voice wasn't really in the best shape. That's why you might have noticed I still sound a little bit congested in this video because I haven't fully recovered yet. So I hope it didn't hinder the viewing experience too much. This is going to be the last video I make in 2022, given that this is coming out on New Year's Eve. I mean, I feel like there isn't really any time for me to make another video after this during 2022. And this year has really been such a huge year for the channel. We passed all the subscriber milestones from 300 to 1,800, which is absolutely insane to me, and I can't thank you all enough. I can't wait to see what's in store for the channel in 2023 and beyond. So with all that out of the way, thank you all once again for watching. I'm Jacob with the Game Block, and for the rest of the year, which by the time you're seeing this is only a matter of hours, I'm signing off.